design in general, we've got a special class for you that you can sign up for. It's at Design Class 2020. You go check it out, and again, you'll be able to sign up for that free web class, that free master class, and learn a few tips about web design. So let's talk about WordPress. Now, a few weeks ago, I think about 2 weeks ago, what they did was they released WordPress 5.5. And it's not a massive update, but it's an important update. And the reason why is because one of the main features of 5.5 is that they're finally auto-updating your themes and your plugins for you. Now, you can enable it or disable it, but if you enable it, what that means is anytime there's a new update to a theme or plugin that you have installed, WordPress will just automatically do that for you without you having to manually update things. And, this is pretty huge because, a lot of websites are being hacked these days because of old plugins, old themes that have compromised code, right? Like they haven't fixed the exploits, or they haven't fixed the vulnerabilities, or maybe they have, but you haven't updated your theme or you haven't updated your plugin, and therefore website hackers are able to get inside your system and either take it down or, have redirect visitors to other sites. And so it was really become a big problem. And so the WordPress team just automatically, they enable these auto updates for you. Now, that said, as great as auto updates are, if you have a website that, is getting a lot of traffic, that's very important to you, you want to be able to test this like anything, you want to be able to test this so that if there is something that is auto updating, like a theme, you want to make sure it doesn't break the rest of your site. And so with this latest release, what they've given you the ability to do is to check each individual theme and each individual plugin if you want them updated or not. So it's not just like all of them or nothing. You can actually choose which elements you actually want updated. And so that's really helpful. But overall, I think this is going to increase the security of WordPress sites in general. And it's just going to make it a lot easier. Like I actually have auto updates on my website. There's a couple plugins that already do it for you. And I find it's really helpful. But again, you'll want to test it out for yourself and see if it works for you and for your current setup. Now, another feature that WordPress has released with this 5.5 update is something called lazy loading. And I don't know why I like that word, but what lazy loading does is normally when a visitor goes to your website, everything is loaded into the browser window at the same time. And so if you have a website that has, say, like a lot of images, then that's going to slow down the time it takes for your website to load. And so what lazy loading does is it actually doesn't load the images until they come into the browser window view. So if someone is scrolling on their phone or, as they're scrolling on their desktop, what it'll do is it'll wait until the very last moment before that image actually comes into view before it gets loaded. And so that really helps you speed up the loading of websites, which is really great. There's also some basic, with this latest update, some basic UI updates, and they have this block patterns that makes it easier for you to use current or most common elements if you're using Gutenberg. But one of the things that the 5.5 update also does is it's also breaking some sites, unfortunately, and that's because a lot of people who have older themes or older plugins, like longer or older than a year or so, 5.5 has removed support for something called jQuery, right? jQuery is essentially a code library that a lot of plugins, a lot of themes use to display correctly. For example, a lot of forums may rely on jQuery. And so the latest update removes the libraries, removes the jQuery libraries. And so if this is happening to you, if you've updated to 5.5 and your site is broken, or there's something that's not working on your site, there's a couple things that you can do. You can either update, see if there's an update for some of the plugins that you've installed, or you can actually go, and the WordPress team has they've made available a patch, essentially, a temporary solution. It's called let's see here. It's called the Enable jQuery Migrate Helper, and this is a WordPress plugin from the Automatic team. And what it does is it basically just it gives you access to the jQuery libraries again, so your plugins and your themes will work. And the idea is that they want to give the developers a little bit more time so that, you know, everyone's site isn't broken all at the same time. And so check it out. And again, if you have a production website, if you have a website that, you know, you rely on for sales and marketing and things like that, test things slowly because the last thing you want is broken sites that you have to you know, put into maintenance. And so that's it for WordPress. If you are a fan of Elementor, if you use Elementor for you know, your web design process, then Elementor has just come out with Elementor 3.0. But before we get into that, again, if you are interested in web design, go to designclass2020.com and you'll be able to sign up for that free web class on design. That actually also uses Elementor. And one of the nice things about this latest Elementor release is that for the first time, they are allowing people, they're enabling you to create a design system that you can integrate with your Elementor workflow. And so essentially what they've been able to do is take what normally you would find in the customize menu in WordPress, and they've taken those options and they've basically put them into the dashboard, into the Elementor dashboard when you're editing your sites. And so you can set things like, you know, global styles, you can set global fonts and colors, you can set the visual styling of your buttons, of your forms, you know, different settings for your H1, H2, H3 tags and your body text. And so it's a really good update. It's a really, really helpful update for people, for, you know, those professional designers who have already created a sort of like a design system on paper that they can then integrate and incorporate into their Elementor workflows. And so it's a really, really helpful system. And if you have Elementor Pro, you can check it out. Check out it's under site settings or page settings in the dashboard. It's a really, really helpful system. But what I would suggest is, as helpful as it is, it's still helpful to have like your design system that you create on, you know, on pen and paper, or, you know, using Adobe XD, so that everybody can actually see what the common elements that you're using to keep your site looking consistent. And, you know, if you're working your site and you only have a few pages, I don't know if it's going to be that helpful. I mean, the nice thing is that you can always reference, like easily reference popular or favorite fonts or favorite colors that you have, or maybe, you know, different types of buttons, for example. You know, you can specify, you can set those up so that you don't have to keep, you know, creating it in the settings again. But if you're doing like a simple page, I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to speed things up because you only have one page. You know, the purpose is to make things look more consistent across the board, especially if you have multiple pages. And another update that they've made in the 3.0 update is they've added this sort of visual look to your some of your template pages. So if you have like headers or footers, or, you know, single posts and single pages, what this new update allows you to do is sort of preview those in your dashboard very quickly and very easily. So it's a really, really nice update, and I think it's going to help a lot of people again maintain that consistency. So that's it for Elementor. Now there's just one last thing I want to talk about, and that is when you are creating your web designs, some things that you can do to help your web designs stand out. And I know a lot of people, when they're looking at their designs, images play a really, really big part in the visual look of your website, right? There's so many things that you can do with images. You can set the primary colors, You can set the accent colors all from one photo, which is really, really cool. And you can also use those images in your mood boards to identify colors for your website. But when using images on your website and in your web designs, there's a few things that you want to keep in mind that's really going to help you stand out and be a little bit more unique. And the first is you want to use authentic images, right? You want to use images that, if there are people in the image, you want that image to have some genuine emotion. A lot of these, or some of these sites that have stock photography, for example, you'll see a group of people all around a table with the same smile, and it's not genuine. It's very fake, and it kind of detracts from your design. And so, if at all possible, you want to find images that really reflect that sort of that genuine emotion. And there's some really great sites that are coming out nowadays, like Unsplash, for example, that have some really, really great photographs that you can find that sort of reflect that. Another thing that you want to do is, if at all possible, you want to find photos that are part of sets. So it's like, for example, if you have someone riding a bike in a photo, you want to have multiple angles or multiple shots of that person riding the bike. Or if someone is painting something, you want to be able to capture multiple shots so that you can actually, put that into your design, or have, more photos to choose from. It also helps you tell a story as well. And so instead of just getting one shot, you should always take a look, especially if it's a featured photo, you should always take a look at getting a group of shots. That way it gives you more choices, more things to choose from when designing your website. And the last thing that you want to do when considering images is you want to consider white space in images. And this is really important if you have a product or service that you're selling. And again, if you're using a featured image, oftentimes you want to be able to have the option of either having text in the image or actually putting your product in the image. And so white space is essentially just literally the white space in the photo where there's nothing there. Maybe it's a white wall, or it's like a table countertop that you can place an image there. And so by having white space, or having enough white space, you'll be able to put images or like messaging, like fonts in the image, so that you can actually continue to develop that as a part of your web design. It's really, really important, and it actually helps. It really comes into play when you're taking images. That can be really, really important. And so those are just a few things to keep in mind when using images in your web design, and it really helps you take your designs to another level, because you can use these images for so many different things. So that's it for the updates today. Again, if you're interested in learning more about web design, just head on over to designclass2020.com, and we'll take care of you. So with that, I hope you guys have a great week, and